driver Jan Magnussen and Katayama in the 22nd and final car here this afternoon. Record crowds on hand. We've talked about the crowds last year. Last year they had a crowd in excess of 100,000 on race day. They're expecting to have even more than that here this afternoon. The crowds not released, or I haven't seen any figures, Jonathan, from yesterday, but it looked to be certainly near capacity here yesterday. And we take a look at the world driving standings. Villeneuve with a 3-point lead over Michael Schumacher, so Schumacher could, he could move into first place here this afternoon.
It's certainly good. The championship is close. I don't think he's going to do it in the course of the year because the Ferrari is just not as good as the Williams. Make no mistake, it's Schumacher's pure, amazing talent that's hauling that car around. But this is a car, if not the driver. That's the Prost car, the Prost with its Mugen Honda engine. That's not actually the key man, Panis, his own car, but Nakano. But the big thing about the Prost cars is that they run on Bridgestone tyres, and they are doing well. Goodyear have had Formula One their own way for a long time. Bridgestone have come in for the first time. We've got a tyre war on our hands, and it looks like it's going to come to an absolute head here at Montreal. We could be seeing our first Bridgestone win today. It could be Barrichello because the Stewart team run Bridgestones, or, of course, more likely, I think, from Olivier Panis in that Prost car. He's had a second in Spain. He had a third place also earlier in the year in Brazil. And these are the conditions that I think Panis is really looking forward to. He's disappointed, it has to be said, with qualifying, and he's right. He's relatively back there in 10th place.
We saw, Jonathan, some of the former winners here. We should point out that Blackjack Brabham, who won the first ever Canadian Grand Prix back in 1967, was honored here on Friday. Look at Michael Schumacher, who will start from the pole. Alongside will be Jacques Villeneuve. By the way, Schumacher, I talked about being a two-time world champion. The last Ferrari driver to win the World Driving Championship was Jody Scheckter in 1979. He beat Gilles Villeneuve by 4 points, and now the car is beginning to move away. There will be one lap to warm up the tires, and then they will reform, and this 69-lap race should be underway. Take us around, Jonathan.
Right, this is turn 2 there, that right-hand corner. That's 80 kilometers per hour, right down to first gear for that. This is, of course, when the cars are warming up their tires, warming up the brakes, and that's probably even more important around here. Now then through, we're looking above that, coming out of their turn 2 into turn 3, braking right down there. It'll be from 230 k's down to 115 in second gear. Out of that, now this right-hand kink they're going through is absolutely flat out at 260 kilometers per hour until they come to the left-hander, back down to second, and then second gear and some 85 kilometers per hour, up then to another 290. This is what this circuit's all about. It's about low corners and accelerating hard coming up. But let's just have a think about what we're going to be seeing in another 40 seconds or so time. These cars are going to be lined up on the grid. They're going to be keeping their motors running. That's one of the functions of this sort of lap, to make sure that everybody, as far as one can, has their engines running. And when they get to that grid, they're going to have to keep exactly still because they have position sensors. If anybody jumps the start, the automatic sensors will detect that. But let's think what's going to be critical here at this start. It's going to be critical between Schumacher and Villeneuve. Villeneuve will be absolutely determined to try and get ahead of Schumacher. Schumacher there is going to want to make best use of his pole position nevertheless. But behind that, I think we may see Barrichello getting swamped. That's the Tyrrell there, one of the Tyrrells. There's Barrichello. Barrichello might get swamped because behind him are two hard starters of David Coulthard and also Ralf Schumacher. Both those two make good starts, so let's look for that. And I think again we may see Ralf Schumacher get ahead of his teammate Fisichella. Fisichella is 6th, but the really crucial one is up front because Villeneuve is going to have to work very, very hard to get by that Ferrari because the Ferrari is the slower car in a straight line. And if Schumacher will want to get ahead, because Schumacher will have no chance of getting by Jacques Villeneuve. If Villeneuve it is who gets away first. Look at the black blinds there where they laid down the rubber previously.
Michael Schumacher on the left. He has the pole position. To his right, Jacques Villeneuve. The cars coming now, reforming. We'll await the green lights and we'll be underway. Watch out for David Coulthard and the silver-colored McLaren. He's a notoriously fast starter. Schumacher on the right, Villeneuve on the left.
And we're waiting for the lights to first come on and then go off. Of course, nowadays there is not a green light. It's simply when all the red lights go off. They're building the engine revs up to some 16,000 revs probably, and that'll really crescendo once we see those red lights come on.
We are underway in Montreal. Schumacher goes first, followed by Villeneuve. turn into the hairpin. The pole sitter Michael Schumacher has the lead, and he is followed by Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, there's a spinning Eddie Irvine there, the Ferrari, with some wing come off somebody else's car, but a great start from Michael Schumacher there. Schumacher getting ahead, a poor start from Frentzen there. Jacques Villeneuve in second place, behind that in third. It is indeed like that. There we have one of the Stewart cars, that's Magnussen, that's Jan Magnussen there, and there's Eddie Irvine. Eddie Irvine's had a miserable weekend. He qualified down in 12th place. He was looking for a good race to try and pull it back, albeit a slow start, and that's the end of that now.
Michael Schumacher followed by Villeneuve. The yellow car is Giancarlo Fisichella, who had a great start, starting from 6th, and he is now running 3rd as they come down to the east end of Ile Notre Dame. It'll be interesting to see. It appears the debris has been cleared at the west end of the track where Eddie Irvine and the number 2 Ferrari went off.
Yes, I don't think there's any chance of the race being stopped for that, but a great start there from Fisichella. He's not made particularly good starts. That provoked me to think that maybe Ralf Schumacher, his teammate, might get ahead. Fisichella is a real star. Now let's have a look at this incident. Look, we've got Schumacher out in front already, but look further back. There is, it looks on the back of a Häkkinen's wing by the look of it. Is it gone there? I think that may have been the black wing from Mika Häkkinen, so we could see him coming into the pits if that's the case. For him, Eddie Irvine, what a miserable end of the weekend. But look at the lead that Schumacher's got. Schumacher is really piling on the pressure there. Jacques Villeneuve dropping back, and that makes me think already about relative strategy, because I would have expected Villeneuve to be right up behind Michael Schumacher at the moment, and in fact he's dropping back a little.
Jonathan, I'll tell you a great story. As into the pits comes one of the Ligier. We talk about good stories, not only Fisichella, but how about Alesi, who has moved up into 4th place? That is Olivier Panis, and this will hurt the pros team because Panis had been very strong here both Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, this is a major blow. This is a very significant event of the race. Seeing Olivier Panis in there for the pits. He's coming out of the pits now. That was indeed Häkkinen. He lost his rear wing when Panis, perhaps it was, that touched him. Irvine got involved. All of that happened at that first corner. And for Panis, that's a great blow in the pros team, because they could have well have won this race. We believe the Bridgestone tyres may be better than the Goodyears on this circuit. We don't know yet. And frankly, because Panis is out now, effectively of the running, certainly for the lead, we may never know.
And coming down to complete lap 2, there's Michael Schumacher, followed by Villeneuve, Fisichella, Alesi, Coulthard, Frentzen, Ralf Schumacher, and Barrichello. Barrichello running very well. This is spun out, and it's one of the Williams cars. It is Villeneuve. Villeneuve is out of this race.
And I think you can see the marks there where Villeneuve has come in now. He was probably on his own. Now, we may need to see a replay of this. What a massive blow. He can't believe it. He's shaking his head. The body language says, this was my fault. I cannot believe it. Or does it say that somebody touched him? It may be, but I wouldn't have thought Fisichella was close enough. Did he have a go at Ralf Michael Schumacher coming in there? But he was too far away, surely. I would have thought this incident was Jacques Villeneuve on his own, and to have that kind of end at the end of lap 1, this is end of lap 2 rather, absolutely devastating. Let's have a look. We got it here. We're on board with him. This is into the chicane. There's Schumacher ahead. Villeneuve brakes from 300. He turns in, and he's spun it. He's spun it on his own, and he's gone into that wall pretty hard. That, I have to say, is quite extraordinary. Villeneuve's made, there is an external view of it. He spins it, he loses the back end on the right-hander. There is Fisichella, he's well back. Jacques Villeneuve was on his own. Unless car failure played a part, and I think it's exceedingly unlikely, that was an absolutely numbing mistake by Jacques Villeneuve on the second lap of his home circuit Grand Prix.
And you talk about numbing. A silence has fallen over this huge crowd in Montreal. Michael Schumacher now beginning to open it up. Running second, there is Giancarlo Fisichella, followed by Alesi, David Coulthard, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Ralf Schumacher is sixth. Jacques Villeneuve, and it appears, as Jonathan Palmer pointed out, to be driver error unless there was a mechanical malfunction on that car. Villeneuve hitting the wall as he was about to complete lap number 2. And Jonathan, that is exactly where David Coulthard wrapped the wall here on Friday.
And of course, Alexander Wurz deputizing for Gerhard Berger in the Benetton yesterday. And in fact, Wurz, to be fair to him, lost it because Mika Salo's trying to put debris across the track, which then Wurz encountered and went straight off. But let's just think for a second, fleetingly, about championships. Michael Schumacher, 27 points. Jacques Villeneuve is 30. We know Jacques Villeneuve is not going to get more points from this race, so we could yet see Schumacher. In fact, Schumacher is likely, I would say, to take the championship lead after this. But look there how hard we've got Ralf Schumacher pushing hard there on Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 5th place. Williams' hopes now relying on this man, and that's before the race. Patrick Head was saying to me that their reliability record has not been as good as they would have liked. They really want to get 2 cars to the finish, and well, that's the end of that, that's for sure.
Down through the start-finish area, Heinz-Harald Frentzen pursued by Ralf Schumacher. There goes Michael Schumacher, followed by Fisichella, Alesi, Coulthard, Frentzen, and his brother Ralf. Michael Schumacher around the hairpin at the west end of Ile-Notre Dame. Mika Hakkinen is out of this race for McLaren. And the big story, though, Jacques Villeneuve, it appears to be, and I'm quoting Dr. Jonathan Palmer here, we don't know if something happened in the car, but it appeared to be simply driver error as Villeneuve, about to complete lap 2, smacked into the wall. Right now, we go down to the pits and John Watson.
Thank you, Brian. Eddie Irvine, what happened in the first corner? Someone's nose came off. I don't know whose it was, as I was going around the outside, and it just shot out in front of me, and I had nowhere to go. It just went straight over the top, and it flicked me round, and that was it, all over. Innocent victim once again? Well, who knows?
Okay, Eddie. Sad retirement first corner. Very, very busy indeed with Panis and Hakkinen involved. We don't know who was the instigator of the incident, but Eddie Irvine clearly was the victim. Brian.
All right, John. Eddie Irvine was second in Argentina. His father, Eddie Sr., lived in Toronto from 1959 to 62. He used to work for Canadian Tire. He used to go up and watch the racing at Mosport. He still has an uncle in Markham, Ontario, and an aunt in Coldwater, Ontario. Heinz-Harald Frentzen pursued by Ralf Schumacher as they come down. And here's Frentzen. Now, right here is where Villeneuve smacked the wall and knocked himself out of this race.
And I have to say, that was the most extraordinary event. We cannot overemphasize what a devastating, extraordinary event that was for Jacques Villeneuve. He just will not believe it. We could see him shaking his head. He had his head in his hands, and whilst there is a slim chance it could have been a mechanical failure or maybe a puncture from the back of that Williams, I think it's probably unlikely. I think maybe Jacques just turned in a little too quickly, and as a result of that, the back end came round. But look at there, Fisichella pushing hard.
And I'll tell you, I mentioned it earlier, I spent some time with Jackie Stewart this morning. I said, Jackie, how do you see this race unfolding? He said, well, I like Barrichello, who's my #1 driver, but he said, I don't think there's any way in the world, barring a catastrophe, that Villeneuve would not win here this afternoon. We've seen the catastrophe. Villeneuve, it appears to be driver error, is out of this race. We'll return with live coverage from Montreal right after this. With Dr. Jonathan Palmer and John Watson, there's Heinz-Harald Frentzen. I'm Brian Williams. Welcome back to Montreal. Frentzen is the only Williams Renault running out of this race before he completed his second lap, Jacques Villeneuve. And while away, we've had some trouble at Katayama driving for Minardi, smacking a wall on the north side of the island, but nothing serious.
No, but that has been enough to bring the safety car out. And this is going to mean that the field are going to have to close up behind the safety car. That's going to be happening in due course, and when everybody's behind the safety car will, there's that safety car. There they're queuing up behind, that's Michael Schumacher, behind that Fisichella, and then we've got Alesi, Coulthard. But what's happened while we've been away is that Ralf Schumacher's got ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. They're the Williams crew. Now, this will be a time to bring somebody in normally, but, you know, it's too early to bring anybody in for fuel. So if the Williams crew are getting ready, it's maybe because they think Frentzen's got a problem. Maybe Frentzen slipped back because he's got a tyre problem. Now, had there been any other car than Schumacher, who was the first car behind the safety car, he'd be waved by now. And we're going to see the drivers follow round behind for probably what's going to be a couple of laps while they remove that Minardi. We've seen Minardis going off in every session for some reason. Whether it's been Jarno Trulli, Katayama's teammate, or Katayama, it has to be said, has a bit of a reputation for being somebody who goes off. And but when we get here, we're closing up the race. It's not a bad thing. Schumacher was actually being caught by Fisichella, and that's a benefit for our motor race.
Jonathan, let me ask you, as we take a look at the standings right now, they've completed 7 of 69 laps. What is the pit strategy this afternoon? You expect a 2-stop race?
Yeah, there's that car of Katayama's, the truck they're going to pick it up. That's not going to take very long. They're going to just hoik the whole thing up. But yeah, Brian, let's come on to strategy. This is a 200-mile race. There is no obligation on teams to come in the pits for fuel and tyres. But if anybody started this race with enough fuel to get to the whole end, look, we must watch this. This is Villeneuve's mistake. This is end of lap 2. It's 300 kilometers per hour, turning it down to second gear. He clips the curve, runs a little bit wide. The back comes round. And round it, the whole thing goes. I have to say that looking at it for a second time really now, it does seem extraordinary that the back of that car came round like that. You know, Villeneuve bangs his head. And, you know, to me, that's the look of someone who knows that they've made a mistake. He cannot believe it, but he's made a mistake.
And as the cars follow the safety car around here in Montreal, a chance for us to take a commercial break. You're watching live coverage of the 1997 Players Grand Prix of Canada from Montreal.
If you like shopping at Fountain Tire, and we all know what fun that is, there's a very good reason why. It's these folks right here. At Fountain Tire, the owners run the stores, so they'll take very good care of you. They're the experts. They're the gurus of Goodyear. You can ask them any question, like, should I get speed-rated tires for my Pinto? No!
Fountain Tire, the tire experts, where the owner runs the store.
Okay, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1922?
Rudolph Nansen.
Completely unrehearsed.
Back live in Montreal, the full course yellow still in effect. The safety car is out. The Minardi of Katayama hitting the wall. Here is a replay of the start. Schumacher got away cleanly.
And now we're looking at it from Alesi's car. Let's have a look there. That's Alesi behind Fisichella. Fisichella goes to that great start. This is really superb stuff. Alesi follows him right through there. So Alesi comes in there, and Alesi goes up the inside of Fisichella. We know Fisichella makes the place. Watch him around the outside. There he is. That's Fisichella. Little twitch from Alesi. Great stuff. This really is.
Magnificent camera work here in Montreal. We're under a full course yellow, if you will. The safety car is out. Jacques Villeneuve is out of this race. That's not why the safety car is out. John Watson, I understand you're in the Williams pits. What's the word? What's the atmosphere down there?
Well, Jacques has just returned to the back of the pits. There's been a pandemonium down here. The team want to just quickly debrief him. He's going to come out and talk to us, tell us what went wrong, the mystery of why he lost control of his Williams at the end of the second lap. Still nobody can tell us. Jacques is now in the process of trying to say it was down to me.
They've now completed 9 laps, and on lap 10, racing again in Montreal, Michael Schumacher now leading Fisichella by about 1.4 seconds. And it's very interesting, Jonathan, you told me before the race today, the stories in qualifying yesterday were not Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve, but you thought Barrichello and Fisichella, who's running in second place.
Absolutely interesting, too, that Barrichello has done, as we suspected, slipped right down the order. He got truly swamped at that start, down to 8th place now. But these Jordans are absolutely flying. And Fisichella has been a revelation this year. There was a lot of hype about Ralf Schumacher being Michael's brother, and frankly, he's lived up to it. But Fisichella's probably done even better. And for Fisichella to be running not just in second place, but so close. And let's not forget that prior to the safety car coming out, Fisichella had closed the gap to Michael Schumacher. He was taking 0.3 of a second off him. Fisichella is driving extraordinarily well. There's Alesi. Alesi in third, Coulthard fourth, Ralf Schumacher in 5th place, and Fredson in 6th. This is a bad weekend for Williams at the moment.
Down through the start-finish area comes the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. The yellow car running second is 24-year-old Giancarlo Fisichella, and into the pits comes Heinz Harald Frentzen. This has not been a great day for Williams.
Look at the blisters. The left rear tyre is blistered. Those 2 lines around there. This is what the teams were fearing, blistering of those tyres. And this is the first sign of doing something about it. Goodyear have shaved the tread. Look, there's a clean tyre. No lines around it. That's very interesting indeed, but it really shouldn't have happened. The teams thought they prepared the tyres properly. Goodyear had actually gone to the trouble of shaving some rubber off because it was recognised that the depth of rubber was too deep, and too deep rubber actually causes overheating too. We should look for telltale signs of blisters with other teams too. Can't see anything just there. So Goodyear had shaved these tyres. They've made the tread compound, the tread depth thinner. The teams had cycled the tyres, and that means going out in a practice session, heating them up, cooling them down, and doing it the next day, and cycling the tyre. There's another blister. That is on Ralf Schumacher. Look at the left front on Ralf Schumacher. Now, the blisters on the fronts will tend to have less of an impact. Ralph Schumacher on the Bridgestone car, the Goodyear car. Look at the inside of his left front tyre. That black line you see going around is a succession of little blisters, maybe big blisters. But the man who should keep them clean, you need skill, you need judgment, finesse, not to blister your tyres. You need to have prepared your tyres properly and not slide the car. And I wonder if Frentzen, in his efforts earlier on to hold back Ralph Schumacher, is actually sliding that Williams too much, putting the power down too much, provoking a bit of wheel spin, because it's that causes the blisters. And in case you wonder what blisters are, it is areas of the tyre tread rubber that is overheated, and you get little explosions, it overheats and bubbles up basically. The rubber comes off on the outside, and the whole tyre surface starts to break down, and that means massively reduced grip. The car will be sliding around tremendously. You can get away with them to an extent on the front if they're small, on the back you can't.
There is Fisichella in the yellow car, followed by Alesi, Coulthard, Ralph Schumacher, and Wirtz, who's replacing Gerhard Berger, Alexander Wirtz. And Wirtz, we mentioned, had a bit of a rough time hitting the wall here in qualifying, but Wirtz prior to that was driving extremely well, and Wirtz right now running in 6th place for Benetton. The Benettons having a big day, running 3rd and 6th, and of course Eddie Jordan with Fisichella 2nd, and Ralph Schumacher 5th is having an outstanding day.
Yes, and the Benetton team have been very impressed by Alexander Wirtz, his first ever Grand Prix. He's Benetton's test driver, been drafted in because of the problems, and that looks like an overtaker there. That's one of the one of the Tyrrells. It's a big Tyrrell scrap going on there. That is Jos Verstappen in front. It's behind that, and he's actually managed to get by Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart.
Verstappen goes ahead of Barrichello. Barrichello drops to 8th, and Verstappen is now 7th after a gutsy pass just about where Jacques Villeneuve had trouble and smacked the wall. It's still Michael Schumacher, now by a 1.5 seconds over Giancarlo Fisichella. You're watching live coverage of the 1997 Players Grand Prix of Canada on CBC. In Montreal, there is that amazing pass.
Yeah, there we have Jos Verstappen in the Tyrrell on the inside, coming past there, Rubens Barrichello. So Barrichello losing out heavily at the moment. A really gutsy drive there from Jos Verstappen up to 7th place. This is the most competitive a Tyrrell car has been so far. But why, we have to ask, why is our star of qualifying, Rubens Barrichello, who qualified so superbly in the Stewart Ford in 3rd place, slipping back? He's now back to 8th place. But up ahead, there is real excitement because Fisichella is actually closing on Michael Schumacher, and he's now within 1.4 seconds after 14 laps. And Schumacher's responded by setting another fastest lap, and they're through there. That is, we have a challenge from Mika Salo to Rubens Barrichello there. That's the Tyrrell of Mika Salo behind Barrichello, and that's a Jordan. That is a Jordan car.
So that will be either Fisichella or Ralph Schumacher. It is Ralph Schumacher who's off just beyond the start-finish line, and he went off and went off hard. He's not injured. He's out of the car, but hard into the tires. Ralph Schumacher was running in 5th place for Eddie Jordan. So it's becoming a war of attrition here this afternoon. Eddie Irvine out of the race right after the start. Jacques Villeneuve out of the race. Let's have one more look.
There he is on the far picture. Look, he gets on the grass. Now, that is extraordinary. Going off on the right-hand side. An enormous accident there. Now, I wonder if, for some reason, Schumacher had a brake failure. I'm just hypothesizing here. Why else would you drive off the right-hand side of the circuit and against the Armco barrier? One scenario in which you might is if you had a brake failure and you knew you were going to have an accident, but you wanted to run the car in against the wall all the way down. But what a great job the safety mechanisms do here. He would have been doing 180 miles an hour, 285 kilometers per hour at that point, and whatever, he slowed down little. But there's his brother, Michael Schumacher, out in front, and he's responded to the pressure from Fisichella in the 2nd Jordan. The other thing we may wonder about Ralph Schumacher, was it anything to do with that tyre? We knew he had some blisters on that left front. I would think unlikely. We'd like to hear the story there, because that was an odd accident. It was to be expected normally when somebody goes off at that point that you lose it under braking and spin and halfway be going backwards, but to literally drive to the right on the approach was very odd indeed.
You see the gap now. Alesi running 3rd, more than 3 seconds behind the leader, Michael Schumacher, the 2-time world champion from Germany, driving for Ferrari.
Now, they're on their 16th lap, so let's just have a think about strategy, because this is important. We said, yes, hypothetically, they could do the whole race on one set of tyres and one tank of fuel. In fact, the fuel tanks aren't big enough. They have two options, really. One is to make one stop at about lap 34, 35, 36, basically mid-distance of this 69-lap race for a set of tyres, and another 110 litres of fuel. The other is to divide the race into three, and therefore, if anybody does that, we're going to be seeing the first few stops around about lap 23, lap 22, somewhere between lap 22 and about lap 27. Now, I think we're going to see a lot of people going for a two-stop strategy. So first stop, round about lap 23. Second stop, round about lap 46. We've still got this scrap going on. What's happening here is that Rubens Barrichello is actually holding up the cars behind. Salo, Herbert, and then behind that we've got one of the Arrows cars. Now look, here is where Salo tries to have a go, but Barrichello's got little wing. Look how small that wing on that Stewart is. He's got straight line speed advantage, and Salo can't quite get by. And therefore Barrichello has this straight line speed advantage. Look at the wings, that is the clue to it all. Now Salo might be able to do it. He should be able to brake later because he's got more downforce, but Barrichello's being brave, and Barrichello keeps him behind once again. Barrichello's lapping more slowly. He doesn't have the car in the best trim for going fast in the lap time. It hasn't got enough downforce, but it does make it very, very difficult to pass.
Outstanding racing here as Barrichello is pursued by Johnny Herbert.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have Pedro Diniz actually there in the Arrows, having his best weekend for a long time. He qualified within a tenth of a second of world champion Damon Hill, and that's going to be quite a boost for him. He was actually faster in this morning's warm-up, but it has to be said too that the Arrows Yamaha reliability is such that it's all too easy to come unstuck. Look at Salo, he's trying all ways to get by Rubens Barrichello. He's probably being held up by something like half a second a lap. We've got his teammate there, is Verstappen, who is doing 22.7. Now, it's Verstappen's last lap. Is he going to do it? And he's done it. I think he's done it. And
Yes, he has done it. Salo goes ahead of Barrichello. Salo is now running 7th, Barrichello 8th, and Johnny Herbert is 9th, followed by Diniz, Panis, and Morbidelli. So the cars driven by Ken Tyrrell's drivers this afternoon with a couple of gutsy passes indeed. There is Salo, the white car. Now he's behind Johnny Herbert. It's Salo, Herbert, and Rubens Barrichello. So Barrichello is dropped to 9th behind Johnny Herbert.
Now there is Olivier Panis. He had that front wing change, but he's charging hard. But you know, the frustration for Salo can be indicated by the fact that Verstappen's last lap was a 22.5, a 1 minute 22.5, and Salo's a 1:25.1. Barrichello was holding Salo up to the tune of 2.5 seconds a lap. He's holding up Diniz now. I'm afraid the Stewart 14 have got their setup very wrong for this, unless there is a problem with that car of Barrichello's, but it will be understandable if they tried to go too light on downforce for the race. It worked in qualifying for 1 lap, but maybe the tyres are now telling they're sliding too much. He hasn't got the grip, and the straight line speed advantage is not enough to make up for the lack of grip by having those wing angles low. Look at the way Herbert and Salo are storming away now. This is a great race for Tyrrell. Tyrrell are really, really performing well. 6th for Verstappen, 7th for Salo. Ken Tyrrell will be absolutely skipping down there in the Williams pit.
And you saw Barrichello pursued by Diniz, Panis, and Morbidelli, running in 9th, 10th, and 11th places, respectively. Here is Rubens Barrichello, and Rubens Barrichello started the day 3rd on the grid, but he's dropped back. And the Ken Tyrrell cars have been absolutely spectacular. That was Salo going through ahead of Johnny Herbert.
Lap 19 now, and it's still pretty tight at the front. We're looking at this very tight, even tighter midfield scrap. But Michael Schumacher is 3.1 seconds ahead of Fisichella. Fisichella is 1.4 seconds ahead of Jean Alesi. And then in 4th, David Coulthard is just 0.6 of a second behind Alesi. And 0.6 of a second means basically following. I would say Coulthard is being held up by Jean Alesi. But we need to really think about strategy now. We need to wonder what Schumacher and what Fisichella are going to be doing. If they are both on the same strategy, and I'm sure that the Jordan will be coming in around about lap 23 for its first stop, and that's only 5 laps away, the question is Schumacher going to be coming in then too?
And right now, as we look at Michael Schumacher pursued by Fisichella, Alesi, and Coulthard to John Watson.
Jack, go ahead. Can you tell us what happened on the second lap? Everything looked so comfortable for you. Suddenly you lost it.
Well, yeah, it was comfortable because I wasn't pushing. I was just taking a few easy laps at the beginning of the race to look after the tires. But it was very slippery. There was a lot of dust that came on the track with the wind, and I misjudged the corner, went in a little bit too fast and lost it.
So what do you feel, I mean, other than dejection?
Oh, a huge disappointment. I made a big mistake, a beginner's mistake in a way, and that's very frustrating. It will be a hard one to swallow.
Thank you, Jack. Back to you, Brian.
All right, John Watson, it's exactly as Dr. Jonathan Palmer had speculated. It's tough to say, but driver error as Panis is into the pits running 11th for Alain Prost, but it appears he simply made a mistake.
That's what we thought, and wasn't it wonderful for Jacques to be so candid? You know, a lot of drivers would have made some kind of excuse. He mentioned the dust, but that was 100% valid. He said he made a kid's error, and it's hard to say that, and it just shows you how tough the pressure is there. Panis in for his first stop. I think that is a fuel stop. We saw it going in there.
And there's the race leader. We take a commercial break. It's Michael Schumacher, followed by Fisichella, Alesi, Coulthard, Wirtz, and Verstappen.
So who's ready to partay on the big boat beside me?
This summer, the position charges throughout the ship.
Oh, man!
Get ready to rock the boat.
We gotta stop the ship!
What do you mean we?
Hold on! Sandra Bullock. Jason Patrick.
You are nuts!
From the director of Speed and Twister.
How do you like your vacation so far?
Speed 2 Cruise Control. Now playing only in theaters.
There's nothing you can get into that Simon Eyes can't get out. Absolutely, positively nothing. Watch spots disappear from upholstery or carpet with Simon Eyes Dry Clean. Choose Dry Clean foaming action or spray for use in your car or in your home. Simon Eyes. We've got as many ways to clean and shine your car as there are to get it dirty. Simon Eyes. Available exclusively at Canadian Tire.
Be active, be cool, but beware.
Seconds behind the race leader, Ferrari's Michael Schumacher. I mentioned Jordan, the other Jordan car, driven by Michael's brother Ralph, out of the race. If you're just joining us, a very hard collision, but fortunately with the safety tires and the safety rubber just beyond the start-finish area. And now Fisichella's time, I said 5.5 seconds, it's now 5.379 behind Michael Schumacher.
And I would be expecting Fisichella to be coming into the pits in the next 3 or 4 laps for his first stop. We're looking at something here we can't see. Oh, Frentzen in the Williams. There's Frentzen on our right-hand side. He's coming up the inside of the Sauber there. And Sauber of Morbidelli, I think that is there. But Frentzen coming back basically after his pit stop to change those tires. But let's think we're going to be seeing Fisichella coming in.
And sorry to interrupt you, but quickly down to John Watson.
We've got Ralph Schumacher. Ralph, a hell of a big accident. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was really, well, I went up at the end of the straight, a tire exploded, so I crashed into the barriers. It was really quite a hard crash. I thought, well, now you hurt yourself, but nothing happened, so I was happy.
You're not hurt at all. You look fit and well, but it must have been a big blow.
Yeah, to be honest, yes.
Okay, Ralph. Take care. Thank you.
Good work, John. Thank you very much. And Jonathan Palmer, once again, you were dead on. It was a tire. You pointed out the blistering, I would say 2 or 3 laps before the incident occurred. We're on board with Jean Alesi as he pursues the second-place Jordan Peugeot of Giancarlo Fisichella. But again, an exploding tire doing Schumacher in this afternoon.
Yes, I'm sure that was a function of those blisters. You know, we know tires are getting over-temperatured in some spots here. This is the teammate. Look, we need to keep looking at these tires. They're probably, if anyone was going to get the blisters, we probably would have done so in the first 10 or so laps. There's probably less chance going on. But back to these pit stops. I'll be surprised if we don't see Fisichella coming in the next 3 or 4 laps for the first of what will therefore be 2 stops. But what Fisichella and the Jordan team are going to be hoping is that they're going to see Michael Schumacher come in as well for his first stop. Blisters there, a little bit on that right-hand front tyre of Alesi's car, but they cleaned up as the car goes along. Back to Jordan team, they're going to be hoping that Michael Schumacher comes in too. What the Jordan team don't want to find is the fact that Michael Schumacher is doing 1 stop, and that'll mean that his performance of pulling away from Fisichella is all the more impressive because he will be having a heavier car that should really be slower.
24-year-old Giancarlo Fisichella driving in his 15th Formula One race. His best ever finish was 4th at San Marino. Made his debut in Australia for Minardi in 1996, was 8th with Minardi at the 1996 Canadian Grand Prix, and he's a former test driver for Ferrari. He's running 2nd, the yellow car. Now back out for a replay. There is Frentzen pursuing, it looks like, Barrichello. And Frentzen is having a rough afternoon, as is the Williams-Rothmans team. Villeneuve out of the race, now to the west end of the track. And there is Frentzen finally getting by Rubens Barrichello, driving for Jackie Stewart. You're watching live coverage of the 1997 Players Grand Prix of Canada on CBC.
I'd have thought that the relatively tiny race performance from Barrichello was because he was only going to stop once. He therefore had half a tank of fuel in. His car was heavier. That would make it slower. Now, this is going to be crucial with these three. Big question. Are these three all on a two-stop strategy? Yes, they are. Two of them are coming in. Is David Coulthard. So, who's going to get out? Lacey will want to get out ahead of Fisichella. The smart thing to do is for Benetton to put in less fuel than Jordan so that Lacey can get out ahead. If Lacey can get out ahead, he will get the advantage on the track over Fisichella. Pit lane exit is going to be crucial to watch.
This is Fisichella. Also in the pits is Lacey. Coulthard is still on the track in second place behind Schumacher. And first away is Jean Lacey. Jean Lacey followed by Giancarlo Fisichella. Lacey has dropped down to fourth place. Wirtz has gone into third, driving the other Benetton.
And we just hear we've got a 10-second penalty for Barrichello there, so that may be for speeding in the pit lane. That's the most likely thing. Benetton did exactly what we expected there, and they got Jean Lacey out ahead of Fisichella there. That's where it becomes important to work the strategy. You need to use these pit stops as an overtaking mechanism, and Benetton have always been very, very clever at that since the Michael Schumacher days, trying to get ahead, knowing what to do. Now, I suspect that Lacey's put in less, or Lacey's had a less fuel put in his car than went into the car of Fisichella, so he'll probably have to stop earlier at the next stop, around about lap 45, but by that time it probably won't matter because he'll be far enough ahead.
Here's the race leader. Michael Schumacher has now completed 25 laps here in Montreal. It's a 69-lap race, and he now has a huge 10.5-second lead over the McLaren Mercedes driven by David Coulthard. The last Ferrari to win here in Montreal, well, it was 2 years ago. Jean Lacey, who's currently running fourth and driving for Benetton, then driving for Ferrari. He was the winner. In comes the other Benetton. This will be Wirtz into the pits. Wirtz was running third.
Now, this is going to be interesting. It's Wirtz's first ever pit stop, so he's got every reason to make a little bit of a mistake here. The pressure is enormous. All going well. It's going to be about 7 seconds, I'm sure. It's going to be the first of two, and away Wirtz goes. Is he going to stall? No, he's got it all absolutely right. You know, the Benetton team have been really impressed by the coolness of that guy. That's Mika Salo in the Tyrrell, so that's both Tyrrells of having their pit stop. But, you know, what's going to be really interesting is what happens in the next 3 laps with regard to Schumacher and Coulthard, because at the moment, these guys have not stopped, and if they don't stop in the next 3 laps, I'm going to say that they're only going to make 1 pit stop, and that's going to be round about lap 35, and that's going to make their current performance all the more impressive. That is what their rivals don't want to know. They want to think they were coming in for the first of 2 stops. They don't want to think that they can run at that pace with so much more fuel in the car.
Remember, this is a 69-lap race. Here is Heinz-Harald Frentzen as he goes by Verstappen and moves into 7th place. Verstappen is now running 8th. The race leader, the bright red Ferrari. Ferrari, 50 years, celebrating 50 years last May 11th. Ferrari last won here 2 years ago. And this afternoon, Michael Schumacher, boy, I'll tell you what, if this car holds up, and that's a big if because Ferrari's had trouble in 1997. Now, it appears Ferrari will be coming in. There's only one Ferrari on the course. That is Schumacher. Eddie Irvine was out before the first lap was over, just about 300 yards, 400 yards past the start-finish area in that hairpin turn at the west end of the island. So Michael Schumacher will be coming in. Jonathan Palmer, it appears it will not be a one-stop race for Schumacher.
And that's going to be a real relief to the McLaren team. They're going to be pretty pleased with Coulthard, second place, 10 seconds behind. They would be demoralized if Schumacher kept going round until mid-distance. So he's going to be coming in this lap. Now Schumacher is the expert. He is the best at coming in fast now. He will be on the limit of pace, and don't forget they have an 80km/h. Look at that speed, you see what I mean? He's opposite locking in the pit lane, but still keeping it below the 80km/h speed limit. He will have a device on the car, as they all do, so he can't overspeed. Schumacher makes every part of his motor race count. towards success. Watch the clock, and it's going to be a good stop. That's what we expected from that. So that definitely is the first of two. He will not get to the end of the race on that amount of fuel. So the next question is David Coulthard. I really would expect to see a McLaren stop next. We will be extremely impressed if David Coulthard there manages to get to the midpoint and makes it just one stop. You know, he set that fastest lap. That I think he would be inclined to do, knowing that he was coming in very soon. He can push the tyres without worrying. He's going to have a new set soon.
This is the race leader, David Coulthard, now leading by nearly 7 seconds over Michael Schumacher. Alesi is fourth. Alesi is third, rather. Fisichella is fourth. Johnny Herbert is fifth. We're due to go to a commercial, but we're going to hang on and see if the race leader, David Coulthard, pits after this lap. It'll be very interesting to see what he does. Down to the hairpin turn at the east end of Ile Notre Dame in front of this record crowd, well over 100,000 here this afternoon. Jacques Villeneuve out of this race before the second lap. He was very candid, said it was simply driver error. He lost it, and down to the pit area comes the race leader, Coulthard. Will he come into the pits or will he not? No, Coulthard remains on the racetrack.
I think we might have a race on our hands because it looks like he's going to make just one stop. If he doesn't come in at the end of this lap, then surely that is what he must be doing. And as he's going to make just one stop, then it means that both he and Schumacher have one more stop now to go, and it means that Coulthard can afford to be a little bit slower at this point than Schumacher because he's been carrying more fuel.
Well, we'll hang on before we go for a break one more time, and that's it. Coulthard's lead now nearly 10 seconds over Michael Schumacher. The big question, will the Scotsman come in for a pit stop? It would mean he's on a two-stop strategy. Jonathan Palmer figuring if he doesn't stop after this lap, he is on a one-stop race, and we will have a race indeed. His second year with McLaren, he has 2 career victories, Australia this year and Portugal 2 years ago. And he was fourth here last year. There's the second place Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. But the big question is, will David Coulthard come into the pits at the end of this lap?
And there is still absolutely no pit activity at McLaren. And, you know, he's really too far around the lap for him to be able to come in the pits and the crew get ready in time. This is looking good from our point of view and looking good from David Coulthard and McLaren's point of view.
There's Jean Alesi. Jean Alesi running third right there, driving for Benetton. So it appears that David Coulthard is not coming in for a pit stop, and his lead right now, he's gone by our booth at the start-finish area. Barrichello in trouble. David Coulthard goes by. It appears he's on a one-stop race. Stay with us. We take a commercial break. You're watching live and exclusive coverage of the 1997 Players Grand Prix of Canada.
Win the world in the Coors Light Talking Can and Cap event, and there's a skill testing question.
Pick me, old buddy.
Do I know you? Who will you take? Not only do you get to go anywhere and do anything with 10 grand, you also get to take 3 friends.
We're packed.
Plus, win trips for 2 anywhere in North America.
My right arm, man. Take it.
Hello, son.
Win the world with Coors Light.
Congratulations.
Must be legal drinking age. For no purchase entry, call 1-800-225-8255.
Bridgestone Potenza Performance tires handled so well on the street, we took them to Formula One. We're proud to make 1997 our debut year. From the makers of Bridgestone Blizzak comes Bridgestone Potenza, advanced technology tires.
Players Grand Prix of Canada on CBC. Brought to you by the Players Racing Team, proud supporter of motorsports in Canada for over 35 years.
Back live in Montreal, David Coulthard is the race leader on his 32nd lap. The lead more than 8 seconds over Michael Schumacher. Alesi is running third. Fisichella for Jordan is fourth. With Dr. Jonathan Palmer, I'm Brian Williams, and if you're just joining us, Jacques Villeneuve, and he was very candid in talking with John Watson. Driver error. He smacked the wall coming into the start-finish area, about to complete his second lap, and he was out of the race. So Jacques Villeneuve is out of the race this afternoon. But Jonathan Palmer, for people just joining us, the story is this man, McLaren and David Coulthard from Scotland. It appears he is on a one pit stop race. This man, Schumacher, has already been in once, will have to stop once more.
That's absolutely correct. In the early stages, Coulthard there was running in fourth, behind Fisichella second and Lacey third. That's all changed around now. Lacey is still third, Fisichella fourth, but Coulthard is leading. In reality, Schumacher is leading because he's probably made that, well, he's made the one stop. But what's interesting too is that we've got the Williams crew are ready and waiting for Heinz-Harald Frentzen. I think we can expect to see Frentzen coming in. He's worked his way back up to sixth place, and with sixth place for Frentzen. And if he has this stop, I think it'll be a long one. I think we're going to be, we've seen 7 or 8 second stops. If we see these mid-race stops, they're going to be more like 10 seconds, 9 or 10 seconds. That's how long it'll take to get enough fuel on to reach the end of the race.
Alesi, followed by Giancarlo Fisichella, who is running in fourth place. Alesi, a winner here for Ferrari in 1995, is currently running in third place, and as you predicted, into the pits comes Heinz-Harald Frentzen, currently running sixth for Frank Williams, and we go down to John Watson. John?
They've got Paul Stewart here. Great confusion over Rubens Barrichello. Paul, what's the story?
Well, he was called in for a 10-second penalty, and they got the cars confused, it appears, between Mika Salo and himself, because going in the first corner with Salo trying to overtake him and then backed off, and so it made it look like Rubens had overtaken him, which he hadn't done. Unfortunately, the race report, that's what it is, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Just got to bite the bullet this time, Paul.
Well, just got to put it under to whatever. I'm not quite sure. It's certainly not experience, but I've asked them to review it afterwards, but it's not going to change anything. It's just unfortunate. Depending on how the outcome of the race, it could mean that we could get back into points. So it's not good.
I agree. Sorry to hear the story. Many thanks. Brian, back to you up in the cabin.
All right, John, we're looking at Giancarlo Fisichella, who's running third and pursuing the second, or running fourth rather, pursuing the third place car, the blue vehicle there. That is Jean Alesi driving for Benetton. There's Alesi, followed by Fisichella. Johnny Herbert is fifth, and running sixth is Alexander Wirtz, replacing Gerhard Berger, who is missing this race with a sinus infection. Jean Alesi down to the west end of Ile Notre Dame, pursued by Fisichella, and a couple of yards behind is Johnny Herbert.
And the other person that hasn't stopped as well at the moment is Johnny Herbert. You see, he therefore is also on a one-stop strategy. Now, David Coulthard's going to lose something like 25 seconds of that order when he comes in for that stop. So we have to expect him to be, therefore, behind Michael Schumacher. Schumacher's only 7.4 seconds behind Coulthard. And it's going to be interesting because Coulthard's only 22 seconds ahead of Jean Alesi. So when Coulthard comes out, the crucial thing will be, that's Johnny Herbert. I beg your pardon, that's Morbidelli. The crucial thing is when Coulthard comes out, will he be ahead or behind of Jean Alesi? We know he'll be behind Michael Schumacher.
The vehicle that spun out, Jonathan, is Jarno Trulli from Minardi. So the Minardi's having a rough day. Katayama out early, and now Trulli spinning here as we look at Jean Alesi running third, and he's pursued rather by Fisichella and Johnny Herbert. We haven't talked about Herbert this afternoon. There's Villeneuve standing by with John Watson. John, it's all yours.
Jack, it's about half an hour since you spun out of the race. What are your thoughts after the incident?
Well, my thoughts aren't very positive. I made a big mistake, and it's a huge disappointment here in Montreal, and mostly to make a mistake like that on the second lap, and it's a long race. When you know you have a strong car, it's just very disappointing.
No, you went under pressure, and there's a long, long way to go in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, I wasn't even pushing. I was actually sleeping for the first 2 laps, just looking after the tires, taking it easy, and it really surprised me. I got into the corner, and it felt all right, and just in the middle of it, the rear snapped, and I didn't catch it. So, normally I haven't made mistakes like that in the races for quite a while, and it's mistakes you make in Formula 3 or Atlantics. It's not mistakes you should make in Formula 1.
You had a chance to watch what's going on in the Grand Prix now. I mean, the reality is, where do you think you would have been if you were running?
Well, the thing is, this morning in the warm-up, we did a very quick lap time after only 4 laps, and we had a lot of fuel in, so the car was very, very strong, and we were quick down the straight as well on the low downforce. So I was confident in taking it easy in the first laps and let Michael go away, because I knew we could fight back. once the track cleared and once we got the good temperature in the tires. So that's why I'm doubly disappointed.
You said track conditions were very dirty in the opening laps.
Yeah, with the wind there was a lot of dust, same as yesterday for qualifying. The wind brought a lot of dust and it was very slippery. But, you know, it just takes 5 or 6 laps to clean up, but I didn't stay long enough.
Listen, you're a bright guy. These things only last momentarily. Your next thoughts are now towards the French Grand Prix at Manicourt and the test there this week.
Yeah, we got a test coming up next week, and we're going to do some good homework there. We tested last week, and it wasn't very good. The car didn't feel great, so we have some catch-up to do.
Getting competitive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting tighter and tighter, and I think that's good. It makes it more interesting for everybody for the championship. It makes it more difficult for us, but it's more interesting.
Yeah, but you don't like it easy?
No, easy would be boring. Of course, I guess if you could get one championship easy, that would be fine, but only one then. But the battles are what is the most important in racing, being on the edge, getting the big rush, and also the battles. So if it gets tighter and tighter, it's just going to make it more interesting.
Okay, Jacques, many thanks, and here's looking forward to Manicourt.
John Watson, thank you. Excellent interview. You're watching Alesi. There's Alesi running third, pursued by Fisichella, who's fourth, and Herbert, who's fifth. Dr. Jonathan Palmer is a former driver, and speaking of drivers, Greg Moore, the IndyCar star, is in the booth with us. A very classy admission by Jacques Villeneuve. No excuses. He said, look, I made the mistake. I have to live with it.
I think it also shows you, too, just how fine the margin is between watching those guys going through that turn there.
There's what happened right there.
Exactly, but they're watching those guys and seeing the cars not slide. The margin between not sliding and it going too far, too quickly, so you're off, is tiny.
That interview showing the great maturity of Jacques Villeneuve. We know he's mature on the racetrack. He is indeed mature off the racetrack. As we look at Fisichella, he's fourth, pursued by Johnny Herbert. You see the standings. He's running fifth. You're watching live coverage of the Players' Grand Prix of Canada.
If you ask me, the road to riches is paved with taxes. So, I guess you gotta make your money work harder. I've always done most things myself, except when it came to investing. There, I knew I needed sound advice, and I got it. My financial advisor got me into mutual funds, and now we're invested all over the world. After 20 years, my money's working, and I'm not.
Mackenzie, building financial independence for over 30 years.
No one's tougher on motor oil than Formula One drivers. The extreme stress and searing heat generated by their hard driving can break down an oil in no time. That's why the Williams-Renault F1 team uses Castrol, the only leading 10W30 that provides maximum protection against both viscosity and thermal breakdown. Because some people have more important things to worry about. Castrol GTX. Drive hard.
Now available Castrol Syntec Blend for added synthetic protection.
Want to give Dad a hand? Get him a snake light for Father's Day.
'Cause I'm the snake light from Black & Decker. Whoa, I get around and round and round. Yeah, I'm the snake light.
It's not your ordinary flashlight. Very clever, Black & Decker.
The season is over. Now it's time to honor hockey's best. Ron McLean brings you the 1997 NHL Awards, including a farewell presentation to Mario Lemieux, Thursday at 8 on CBC.
Into the pits comes Mika Salo, who is currently running 8th. He will drop to 9th, and Panis goes by him. We're back live in Montreal. They've run 37 of 69 laps. Coulthard leads Michael Schumacher by 10 seconds, Jean Alesi by 39, and Giancarlo Fisichella by nearly 40 seconds. Nakano into the pits, and he will come out. He is not a factor in this race today.
But David Coulthard really is, and he's just set the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 19.6, and that's truly amazing. You know, he's on this first set of tyres still. The tyres are old. Now there's David Coulthard. He's still out on the track. He's looked after those tyres really well when the car's been heavy, and the good thing about this circuit is that he's low on tyre wear. Tyre wear itself is actually virtually non-existent. So as the laps are reeled off, the cars get lighter. You should get faster and faster as the car becomes lighter, because the tyre performance actually doesn't degrade. If they don't... Now here's Frenson. He's going to be going by somebody. I think he's going by
That's Salo. Salo, when he went in the pits, I believe it is Salo, and Boy, Frenson, this is where Villeneuve hit the wall early on, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think that was probably Frenson getting by Verstappen in the Tyrrell. Frenson's having to have a great comeback. There is Coulthard there. He's still out on this track. He should have stopped at lap 34 if this is going to be a mid-distance stop. Not only has he stayed out, he's now on his 39th lap, and still the McLaren crew are not out. This is great stuff. But I think he's now done enough when he comes out of this pit stop. He's going to be ahead of Jean Alesi. He's going to lose about 26 seconds. So that's going to mean he's going to end up being 16 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. When Coulthard stops, Schumacher will go into the lead by 16 seconds. Alesi will be probably 4 seconds behind Coulthard.
As we look at David Coulthard, his McLaren with Mercedes power. I mentioned Greg Moore, the pride and joy of Maple Ridge, British Columbia, who's won 2 straight on the kart circuit, is with us in the booth. We'll talk to Greg shortly. Greg also driving with Mercedes power this year, as is the other Canadian, Paul Tracy, for Roger Penske. David Coulthard now on his 40th lap out of 69 and leading by 10.326 seconds over Michael Schumacher.
And we need to keep our fingers crossed a bit for David Coulthard here, because they are running. There's the crew, the McLaren crew getting ready for this stop of David Coulthard's. It's going to be a relatively long stop. It's going to be 9 or 10 seconds, so don't panic and it goes over 7, because they've got to get enough fuel in that car to get to the end of the race. Mercedes have got the most powerful engine in Formula 1 now. They're rumoured to have 785 horsepower. In he comes. Down through, past the white line. That's the 80-kilometre speed limit zone. The engine sounding ropey because it's against the speed limiter. That's why. But McLaren crew do the best pit stops in the business overall, I would say. We're going to see one now, but of course it's the fuel load going in. The red pipe there is where the fuel's going in. That takes the time. You can see the fuel still going in. The tyres are done. Oh, very, very nearly did David Coulthard stall that car. But actually, all of these cars have an anti-stall system. When the engine revs get too low, an automatic clutch disengages it. Now, that system is normally so that if a car should spin on the track, it's got a much, much smaller chance of actually stopping. It'll just dip the clutch effectively, and it may have been that system that actually prevented David Coulthard from stalling there, and that would have been a blow that would have cost him maybe 5 seconds, certainly 2.
With Coulthard into the pits and back out, the new race leader is Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari. Now by 8 seconds, Coulthard did not lose a position, though, to Alesi, so it's Schumacher, followed by Coulthard, Alesi. Fisichella is 4th, Herbert is running 5th, but the big story is Coulthard is on a one-stop race. Schumacher, a 2-stop, he's got 1.
On the Seaborn Legend, 1 passenger's insane enough to take command.
Position charges throughout the ship.
And 2 passengers...
Where is he?
He's everywhere.
...crazy enough to try and stop him. This summer, get ready to rock the boat. From the director of Speed and Twister. Speed 2, Cruise Control.
How do you like your vacation so far?
Now playing only in theaters.
If this has become your idea of communing with nature, it's time to call the Great Canadian Adventure Tour hotline. Call 1-888-878-5111 for your free adventure travel guide and enter to win a Yukon hiking and rafting holiday from Sun Flights Club Canada and Canada 3000, plus adventure wear from Roots. The Great Canadian Adventure Tour.
Wow!
We've just received reports that Fred is heading south and appears to be picking up speed.
Residents are advised to reroute to 18. Anyone can be
We've now learned that Fred is within visual range at current speed.
Hey, Fred.
Morning, Bob.
The new Pontiac Grand Prix GTP. V6 supercharged wide track. Built for drivers.
Back live in Montreal, on board with Jean Alesi. The race leader, though, is Michael Schumacher, followed by David Coulthard and Jean Alesi. And joining us in the booth this afternoon from Maple Ridge, British Columbia, is Greg Moore. Greg with 2 straight wins on the IndyCar circuit. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now, you noticed something as we watched the action in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. You noticed something, you were talking to Jonathan Palmer about Schumacher's tires.
Yeah, it looks to me like Schumacher's got some big blistering on the rear tires there, and that's going to really slow him down. I see David was conserving his tires quite well there, so, you know, it looks quite good for David right now.
That's Fisichella, the yellow car, currently running 3rd. Greg, you run next week in Portland, I believe. The key to your success so far this season? I mean, it's been remarkable. You were close last year. It's not a surprise, but it's suddenly come like that.
It has, and it's just a lot of hard work is now starting to pay off. We've got some good luck, and I'd rather be lucky than good any day in this motorsport business. But everything's been quite good. The players team's been doing a great job for me, and it looks like David's doing a good job out there. So it's another one for the young guys.
Jonathan Palmer, what do you think? We have a Canadian in Formula One in Jacques Villeneuve, who's out of this race, but the time will not be too long, I suggest, before we see Greg Moore in F1.
Well, it depends if Greg wants to be in F1, I would think, and I'm sure he'll be having a lot of cozy discussions with Jacques Greg over the next few years, working out what you can earn where, I should think, where the future is. But you're doing a great job in IndyCar, no doubt about it.
Thanks a lot.
Greg, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
All right.
Stay with us in the booth. We look forward to seeing you in Toronto for the Molson Indy Toronto. And again, Greg is pointing out they're going to make a pit stop, and it could be for the tires. He's on a two-stop race, Greg. Keep the headset on, and we'll talk to you a bit here. Jonathan, what do you figure?
Well, this stop's a bit early, but he's going to have to do that. Look at that left rear around the middle, the black bands we described before with Frentzen. We saw it with Ralf Schumacher. We're seeing it with Michael. But what's interesting here is that Michael hasn't really been under a huge amount of pressure. Sure, he's had Coulthard going well, but it just shows you how unpredictable these sets of tyres are, in that the teams tried to prepare them well. They tried to heat cycle them, running them on Friday, running them on Saturday, but even so, and no one will have been more careful. I can tell you that Michael Schumacher, look at it, there is that big band of it. He's going to have to come in and put another set on, and when he gets that other set on, he's going to have to be careful not to actually do the very same thing to the next set. He's still driving quickly, though. He's still going virtually as fast as anybody, and he's still 9.6 seconds ahead of David Coulthard.
So it's Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard second, Alesi running third, Fisichella fourth, Herbert, and into the pits will come Michael Schumacher. That's Johnny Herbert. He's been in for a long, long time.
That's because he's had a 10-second penalty, and that probably would have been speeding in the pit lane on his last stop.
That's Panis, and following Panis into the pits comes Michael Schumacher. Greg Moore spotted it. You see the right of your screen. It's his left tire, the stripe on the tire. It's blistering. Now we'll watch to see when Coulthard goes by. Coulthard has just gone across the start-finish line and taken the lead.
Right, so Schumacher's out. Now that's his last fuel stop. And we know that David Coulthard's done his as well. So Schumacher has got 8.5 seconds to make up. This is a 69-lap race. They're on lap 45. And so you can work it out, but he's got some 24 laps to go to try and make up that 8.5 seconds. And at the same time as making up that time, he's not going to push that hard that he will overcook those tyres and get yet more blisters, because if he gets more blisters in the next 5 laps, that's going to effectively end any challenge Michael Schumacher can make to the lead of David Coulthard.
So Coulthard's tires appear to be fine. Morbidelli's in the pits. Greg Moore, you drive Mercedes Power for your team, the players' team on the kart circuit. This is a Mercedes engine. You surprised he can go with a one-stop race?
No, I'm really not, because the Mercedes guys, they've been working so hard on fuel mileage, and it looks to me like David's getting good mileage out there, but like Jonathan was saying, he's conserving those tires quite well. He's turning the fastest laps out there above anybody, and if he keeps this up, he's looking strong for the race win.
What's so important with this is just trying to get that right chassis balance, Greg, isn't it? It must be that nothing is more crucial for chassis balance than when you're running on fast ovals. That, presumably, you get an imbalance, you'll destroy tyres instantly.
Well, that's just it. And tires are such an issue, especially in Formula One and IndyCar both now, because there's a tire war going on, and everyone's trying to run the softest tires possible, and that's why you're seeing a lot of blistering happening now in Formula One.
Michael Schumacher has just passed Olivier Panis. He's lapped him. Panis is running 7th, so that means there are 6 cars on the same lap. Those cars are Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi, Giancarlo Fisichella, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Johnny Herbert. Out of the race before the second lap is Jacques Villeneuve for Williams, and Villeneuve admitting it was driver error. Jonathan.
Pit stops, second round of pit stops now. We're expecting to see Jean Alesi coming for his second stop. Fisichella, I think, is actually in the pits at the moment. We're not seeing. Yes, there he is. There's Fisichella. And that should be another 7.5 second stop. It is. Fisichella's away cleanly. Let's watch for Jean Alesi. He needs to come in for his second stop yet. And then we will have the pattern for the top 6. We've got Coulthard now. He's had his stop. He's running to the end of the race. Michael Schumacher has had his second stop. He's running to the end of the race. Jean Alesi, we're waiting for. That's Alesi. He's got to come in. His teammate Wirtz has dropped right back. He's 7 laps behind now. Some big problems there. Frentzen has had his second stop. The first stop actually was very early for those tyres that he had when Frenson's tyres blistered. The Williams team put in enough fuel to get to the end of the race, but he came in mid-distance. And then we've got Fisichella. He's all done on pit stops. He's had his second one. And Johnny Herbert has had his one stop. Okay, he came in again, but that was just for the pit lane speeding infringement. A great shame because Herbert, yet again, has driven a great race with the Petronas engine Sauber. He didn't qualify well, but he got it all together. Watch out for Alesi. We're with him now. He's got to come into the pit soon. This could be the lap, but it isn't.
And this exactly is where Jacques Villeneuve smacked the wall and went out of the race just before completing his second lap. Here's Villeneuve's teammate, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and he is currently running fourth. We understand that Villeneuve is now leaving Ile Notre Dame, leaving the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. There is Jacques Villeneuve, and to quote John Watson, a good driver is an honest driver, and he was honest about the mistake. Back live in Montreal after this.
Oh, for... You know, if you don't take care of your car, you won't be seeing too much of summer.
So get to Midas first. Right now, they'll give your car a lube oil and filter, inspect the cooling system, check all fluids, rotate your tires, set tire pressure, and check all lights, hoses, and belts. All for just $34.95. Plus, you'll get a free written inspection of your brakes. It's the way it should be. Midas. I think it's clearing up.
Win the world in the Coors Light Talking Can and Cap event, and there's a skill testing question.
Pick me, old buddy.
Do I know you? Who will you take? Not only do you get to go anywhere and do anything with 10 grand, you also get to take 3 friends.
We're packed.
Plus, win trips for 2 anywhere in North America.
My right arm, man. Take it.
Hello, son.
Win the world with Coors Light.
Congratulations.
Must be legal drinking age. For no purchase entry, call 1-800-225-8255.
It's the way the sun helps things grow in their own time. It's the way bread begins as an ocean of wheat before rising in the oven. The way onions can make you cry, even when you're laughing. And it's the way we make over 1 million people their favorite sandwich every day, which, in case you're keeping track, is more sandwiches than the entire population of Manitoba. Subway. It's the way a sandwich should be.
Back live in Montreal, Johnny Herbert currently running in 6th place. The race leader is David Coulthard, now by nearly 14 seconds over Michael Schumacher. Alesi is 3rd, Frentzen is 4th, running 5th is Fisichella, and as I say, 6th is Johnny Herbert. Right now, down to the pits, and once again, John Watson. John?
Trying to got Alexander Wirtz, who's standing in for Gerhard Berger. Alexander, first Grand Prix, but a short one.
Yeah, it was a short. Unfortunately, I was in the points. Sometimes was 5th. I was 6th in the end. I tried to save my brakes especially, and I would imagine that some guys get problems in the end, but my drive shaft or gearbox broke down out of the hairpin without anything noticed before. Just went on the throttle carefully, and then it happened.
It's been a pretty character-building weekend for you. Yesterday in qualifying, an accident which we believe wasn't your fault.
No, of course it's my fault when I sit in the car, but it was due to some problems on the circuit. It was dusty, so the team says it's not my fault. I was in qualifying, and when you're on the limit, there is no space for dirt on the tarmac. So,
okay, Alexander, best luck next time.
Thank you, John. Heinz-Harald Frentzen now running 4th ahead of Jean Alesi. Or excuse me, Frentzen running 3rd. Alesi's now 4th. So Alesi, you look at him there, is running 4th behind Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. So finally some good news, Jonathan Palmer, for Frank Williams.
Yeah, absolutely. Frentzen really has been driving well, and to get back up to 3rd has been a great effort, but Coulthard is being fantastic. You know, he's now 12.5 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. Schumacher's been able to do little overall about it. The gap has stayed the same for the last 4 laps, give or take a bit of ebbing and flowing. And, you know, I'd be surprised if Michael can pick up the 0.4 of a second he needs to get ahead of Coulthard or to close on Coulthard by the end. But of course, it's one thing catching up with David Coulthard, but the other thing is getting by, because Coulthard's McLaren is a lot faster with that Mercedes engine in the straight than Michael Schumacher's Ferrari.
Jonathan, we want to wish good luck to Greg Moore. Thank you for stopping by today. Good luck in Portland, and we'll see you at the Molson Indy in Toronto.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Greg. And great of you to spot that blistered tire on the car of Michael Schumacher. Heinz-Harald
And we've
Frentzen.
got more blisters on Frenson's car. Look at the left rear of Frenson's car there. in the middle of that. I think we saw another spot. And the Williams crew already, the Williams crew are waiting. Have we got another pit stop for Frentzen? Well, he's charging. He's just set a fast lap at 119.9. Look at these tyres. You know what we're looking for. We're looking for these dark bands. There they are on Schumacher's again. Look at Schumacher's car. Schumacher's challenge, I'm predicting it is over. Now, that's a bold prediction, but you look at Schumacher's left rear again. See those bands? That is blistered tyres. And this is going to be wonderful for sight for McLaren. That's just what they want. Panis is crawling all over the back of Michael Schumacher. The Ferrari crew are going to have to surely come out again. There are 20 laps to go, and Schumacher will not make the end of the race on that set of tyres.
Panis spins a bit, flips it aside, but regains control and passes Michael Schumacher. So Panis is back on the same lap with Schumacher. He's running 7th. Schumacher is currently 2nd, but dropping now more than 14 seconds behind David Coulthard. John Watson said at the top of the show, tires, and you echoed it, tires could be a major, major story. Look at the back. There is left tires, but on the screen, it's the rear right. Watch, and you will see the stripes, the ridges on the tires as Alain Prost looks on at his car, Panis. But watch the stripes, the blistering of the tires for Schumacher.
Yes, and Prost is going to be so disappointed really now, you know, because his man Panis is down in 7th. This was the sight he was dreaming about. Goodyear tyres blistering, letting the Bridgestone cars come through. You can see it's getting worse. Schumacher drops back, but it's all been frustrated by that first corner incident in which Panis lost his nose, and as a result of that, Panis dropped back. But, you know, Panis was a bit of a tip to win this race here today. The Bridgestone tyres looking good. And it's a great shame for Goodyear. There's no doubt about it. Goodyear can make some great tyres and have made some great tyres, but on this particular race, they've not had the best tyre for the job. I'm sure that really has been the Bridgestone. But David Coulthard is now 14.2 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. As we predicted, Schumacher's challenge is really over. The Ferrari team are ready. The Schumacher is coming in. That tyre is absolutely shredded. Look at him. He nearly loses it in the pit lane. And he's going to do well. He's going to retain his 2nd place, I'm sure, because Frentzen in 3rd is going to also have to come in for another set of tyres. We'd like to look at the rubber on that Williams car. It's going to be a quick stop. Is there any fuel? No fuel should need to go in because they've done all of that on that 2nd stop. 6.5 seconds tells you how fast they can change tyres. Let's see how long it takes for the Williams guys to do the same thing. Again, I'll be surprised if they put any fuel in that car of Frentzen's when he comes in. He's 4.7 seconds ahead of Lacey. Frentzen comes in the pits. This is goodbye to 3rd place unless reliability steps in. So, into the pits. Look at the wheels locking there. Frentzen comes in, stops on cue.
Lacey has just gone by and moved into 3rd place. Frentzen is down to 4th. He's down to 5th. Fisichelli's gone by. Frentzen comes back on the racetrack after an 8.2-second pit stop. He finds himself in 5th place behind David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi, and Giancarlo Fisichella.
Well, that was a refueling stop. We called that wrong, I have to say. I thought Frentzen...
Here's Coulthard into the pits. Look at the blisters on the back of his car. Right side, his left tires.
Blisters are what this race is all about. So, Coulthard was ahead. Schumacher's that's what Ferrari want to see. They couldn't believe it. He stalled. He stalled. Now this is handing it back now to Michael Schumacher. The seconds are ticking away. Should be 6.5 seconds. David, we saw him nearly stall on that first pit stop. We thought it was the anti-stall system that saved him. They're trying to get it going. Watch for Schumacher to come by. Schumacher's surely going to go by.
Listen to this crowd. The fans sensing Ferrari will take the lead. And down through the start-finish area goes Michael Schumacher as Coulthard has had a disastrous pit stop. And we have an accident out on the track. That appears to be...
That's Panis. It's a huge
Olivier Panis.
Huge accident there for Olivier Panis. Let's hope he's all right in that. I don't know where it's happened, but that is a big accident.
He's moving. You can see him moving his head. That is Olivier Panis, 30 years of age.
I can see the race being red flagged for this. I can see this race being red flagged. We've got it's the safety cars coming out. So safety car comes out, that's going to mean queuing up behind. So that is actually going to help David Coulthard because he'll be able to close up behind Michael Schumacher. Anything he lost in that pit, he's still there actually, so no, he's too far behind. Panis climbing out of the car, looking like he's climbing out of the car. Thank goodness for that. We couldn't see the front end of that, but that is a very big accident. This is how it happened. Let's have a look. That is, oh my goodness, that is a big accident. He's flat through there. Now, was that a tyre-induced situation? Up go the tyres, up goes the car. Well, let's see, he was lucky not to get his head. Let's hope Panis hasn't had his head touched by those tyres there. Prost wondering what happened. Well, he's being carried out of it, so he's obviously got some...
Now, he's asking them to... He's raising his right arm, saying, hold it, leave me alone. They're trying to pull him out of this car. This is on the north side of Ile Notre Dame, really facing downtown Montreal. Olivier Panis was currently, there's Coulthard back out on the track. Olivier Panis was running in 8th place. He appears to have leg injuries, and we should not be surprised because the leg sits so far up in the cockpit, and he hit hard. But again this afternoon, we saw it with Ralph Schumacher, Jonathan, the importance of the tires and the safety barriers.
Tires are a marvellous cushioner of the blow, and Panis would have been doing 250 kilometres per hour around that corner. That's 155 miles an hour. That was not a driver mistake from Panis. That was something went wrong with the car or the tyres or something. I really believe that, because that corner should be flat out. We saw how suddenly that Prost car snapped sideways. He glanced on the inside. He then ricocheted towards the outside. It's probably a little premature to say Panis has definitely got injuries to his legs. Let's hope he hasn't. Let's hope it's just shock. He's got the best medical treatment there. He's obviously conscious, we know that. He's got the medic there. The safety car is out. That means that the flow of racing cars beside that damaged car of Panis will be slow. They'll be just going around, gathering speed. So let's look at the order. We've got Schumacher now in first, Alesi in second. Third place is Fisichella. Fourth is Frentzen. Fifth is Herbert. Sixth is Nakano.
Now, we will get one more look at this as team owner Alain Prost looks on. You say it's not driver error here, Jonathan.
Yeah, look at that. The car just very suddenly snapped sideways. Now, did he clip the curb on that left-hander? I really don't think it was that, but watch the tyres go up. The car goes up. The tyres going up actually is good news. It helps dissipate the energy. You know, the chassis on these cars are amazingly strong. The driver's feet have to be behind the front axle line, and that's a safety thing they introduced. Now, Panis is certainly getting a treatment from the medics there. He's obviously in some sort of a trouble. That's Professor Watkins down there with him, who's headed up the medical side of Formula One for many, many years now. This is really, this is a tremendous shame for Panis. Let's just hope it's nothing serious, because he is a gifted driver and he's done so well.
Professor Sid Watkins, a neurosurgeon from London who heads up the medical squad. He is helped here by the well-known heart surgeon Dr. Hugh Scully from Toronto. I had dinner with both those doctors last night, and this is without question the best medical team on any racing circuit anywhere in the world. We can tell you that Olivier Panis was conscious when he was lifted from the car. Actually, we saw him wave off a couple of the course workers. He is now laying beside the track, and Sid Watkins, Professor Sid Watkins, is there. The safety car is out, if you will. It's a full course yellow here with 54 of 69 laps completed in Montreal. Jonathan Palmer.
Now, it's possible that this race could be stopped. We are beyond the 75% distance point. That would have been at lap 51. The race could be stopped, and I would not be surprised, because they need to really rebuild that tyre wall. There has to be a question mark about... Oh, now look at the front of that car. That has had a massive impact. I must say, it's going to be hard to think Panis has escaped without any injury. Look at the front of that Ligier car. They really should rebuild that tyre wall before the cars can continue racing. And I question whether or not they will do that. I should be surprised if the race continues to the very end under the safety car. I think there has to be a possibility of the organisers looking at it, assessing how long it will take to repair that damage, get the car out of the way, rebuild the tyre wall to an acceptable standard before they work out what they do.
Dr. Jonathan Palmer, you are a medical doctor. I mentioned Professor Sid Watkins, Dr. Hugh Scully. Talk to me about the medical care and the procedures that go on in an incident like this.
Well, the medical care, as you can imagine, is absolutely superb. We have Sid Watkins, who is a professor of neurosurgery. Now, let's look at the car. Look at the front of that car there. These cars are made from carbon fiber, and it does, I have to say, it looks like there has been quite a lot of deformation of that car. I think Panis is indeed injured. I think that really is the likely thing. At least he was conscious, we saw that. But if he manages to escape this accident without having any breakages to the lower limbs, I'll be very surprised indeed. You know, this was a big accident.
Where are the doctors positioned? A lot of people new to racing. We mentioned Sid Watkins, Hugh Scully, the heart surgeon from Toronto. They're based where? At the start-finish line?
They are doctors all around the circuit in various cars. We have the main medic being based in the pits. Back to this race, really. I would be surprised if a contributory factor is not these blistering tyres. We know it's happened on the Goodyear runners. We know that Ralf Schumacher's had a blown tyre. We know that a lot of people have had tyre problems. They're having more tyre problems. Is there really not a case for looking at this seriously and wondering, is it correct to continue the race? We are beyond the 75% distance, and there's a question mark about the future safety of the race, I think.
Now, you talked about Goodyear's, the blistering that Michael Schumacher suffered. Remember, Panis is on Bridgestone tires, so this is a problem that seems to be affecting all tires here this afternoon. Parts of this track were resurfaced following the race last year, but no word right now as to what's causing it.
No, I think we must make it clear we do not know that this accident from Panis had anything to do with a Bridgestone tyre or a failure of a Bridgestone tyre, and it probably didn't. We just don't know that. We do know that tyres have been heavily stressed. There have been question marks about it, and it is not impossible. We may well never find out what happened in the accident, but looks like the rear end of the car is intact, and that will mean, because the rear end of the car is intact, they should have a good chance of seeing if there's any suspension breakage at the rear end of it, any kind of damage to wishbones, the suspension joints that could have caused that initial snap. That initial snap we saw looked to me like something being wrong at the back of the car. They'll be able to inspect those tyres. They'll probably cut the tyres up to look for little micro blisters. They'll certainly look at the suspension very carefully indeed. It may have been, but I just really doubt it. It may have been that Olivier simply clipped the curb too much on the inside, but it didn't look like the car got out of shape at all on the left-hand component. He'd really got beyond the apex, and then before he turned right, and you can see there's a drip up. There's one of the marshals there, the paramedics holding up the bag with fluid going in, but that's a reasonable precaution. Whenever anyone has any degree of injury, and Panis certainly would have had a lot of shock, you would expect to have an intravenous line put in, because apart from replacing fluid, and that's a very important thing to do anyway, it also gives you a line into the body to inject any kind of drugs that are required for whatever condition is present.
We look into the pits of Alain Prost Grand Prix Racing. There is the master in the middle.
And I think the last time Alain Prost had these kind of feelings, I would have thought would have been back when Ayrton Senna tragically lost his life. The race is stopped. That is what we thought. That is what I thought might happen. The race is stopped. We're beyond 75% distance. That means that Michael Schumacher has won the Canadian Grand Prix. Jean Alesi is second. Fisichella is in third. Heinz-Harald Frentzen fourth. Johnny Herbert in fifth. Nakano in sixth. David Coulthard, after that stunning drive, such frustration, finishes in seventh place. Pedro Diniz in eighth. Damon Hill in ninth, having his first finish of the year. Gianni Morbidelli in 10th place. And Olivier Panis, well, he's obviously not finished the race in reality, but he would be classified.
So an amazing day here in Montreal, a tragic day in many ways. A disappointing day, first off, for the Canadian fans, with Jacques Villeneuve going out. He admitted driver error before 2 laps were complete as he hit the wall. And now, hopefully, Olivier Panis is all right as he's being moved into the ambulance and removed from the north side of Ile Notre Dame. The race has been stopped, and Michael Schumacher has won the 1997 Players Grand Prix of Canada. Hang on, Jonathan Palmer's raising his hand here for just a minute. Jonathan?
Well, we're just saying if there is a situation here for the race to be restarted. I actually don't believe there is. I'm looking at the rules. I'm just checking. But I believe that if it's 75% distance, then the race is over. And we are beyond 75%. By my calculator, it's just over 51 laps. Would have been a 75% distance point, and we are clearly beyond that because it's lap 55 when the monitors are stopped on. The race is stopped. We see it there, lap 56.
Olivier Panis being loaded into the ambulance on the north side of Ile Notre Dame, facing downtown Montreal, driving for Alain Prost. He was running in 11th place when the accident happened. That is Jean Alesi on the right, talking to Michael Schumacher, who's still in his car. The race has been stopped. We'll take a commercial break and return live to Montreal. You're watching the 1997 Players Grand Prix of Canada exclusively on CBC.
As Canada's auto parts store, Canadian Tire offers you even more. Like our Loan-A-Tool program. If you need an auto tool, just come to our auto parts counter, choose from a selection of specialized tools, and we'll loan you one at no charge. And it doesn't end there. Because right now you can bring in your battery, alternator, or starter to any Canadian Tire Auto Parts counter, and we'll give it a free electrical test to ensure everything is in working order. Canadian Tire, Canada's auto parts store, made better.
Be active, be cool, but beware. Use an ordinary stick antiperspirant, you get flaky white stuff. Until now. Gillette introduces new Clear Stick. It's clear, so it can't leave a white residue, and it glides on smooth and dry for clearly great protection. Protection against odor and wetness. So don't get the white stuff, get the clear advantage. New Gillette Clear Stick, or try cool, refreshing clear gel.
Just located another test site.
Talk to me. Road testing, Stuttgart, monitor 6. Lateral G is 0.93. Speed.
Miles per hour, 150. Pushing in 500%.
Pushing in 500%.
Speed 160 and climbing.
Enhance that.
Speed 170, still climbing.
Anybody have any idea what this is?
I do.
Well?
It's the next vet.
Get me one.
There's Michael Schumacher, the winner of the 1997 Players Grand Prix of Canada. This race has been stopped. The last Ferrari to win was Jean Alesi. There's Alesi, the right of your screen. He's second today for Benetton. And a great story, a young Italian driver, Giancarlo Fisichella, who finishes third. The story now, and of course, our thoughts very much with the French driver, Olivier Panis, on the left, Fisichella, who's third, as the race is stopped. In the middle, the winner, Schumacher. And on the right is Jean Alesi. Dr. Jonathan Palmer, the ambulance has now removed Olivier Panis from the north side of Ville Notre Dame. We see it now on one of our monitors at the bottom side of the screen. That is the ambulance making its way slowly, very, very slowly, along the north side of the island. But again, for those people just joining us, Panis appeared to be, or definitely was conscious when he was removed from the race car, moving his head, waving his arms. But he was placed on the side of the track, and the medical team, headed by Professor Sid Watkins, tending to him before he is removed to hospital here in Montreal. Michael Schumacher, with a victory here this afternoon, not the kind he would have liked. He would like to, A, have beaten Jacques Villeneuve, both men to the finish line, and of course, B, and perhaps in fact it is of far greater importance, he no way wants to win a race that has been stopped because of an injury to another driver.
No, I'm sure that's going to be certainly on his mind. He will be absolutely thrilled to have won the race. So it's championship lead goes now to Michael Schumacher on 37 points. Villeneuve retains second in the championship on 15. Olivier Panis, and we're going to John Watson now.
Ron Dennis, David Coulthard and McLaren were dominating this race, then suddenly that stopped, everything went wrong. What was it?
Well, we had a clutch problem. It wasn't anything that we'd had an indication of in the race. We were looking at all the data, it was clear. We didn't need to stop, which is a bit frustrating. We were on a well-executed one-stop strategy, but Michael's tyres were absolutely gone. We had some blisters. It was just a precautionary stop. We had such a lead on Alesi that we just thought, bearing in mind what happened to Mansell back in Adelaide a few years ago when it cost him the World Championship, it was just sensible to stop, take on clean tyres and cruise home. And the clutch caught us out. It was obviously a fierce debate on the pit wall, the right thing to do. I took the decision, and
all right,
I don't regret it because nothing's more important than safety.
Okay, Ron, what did you and Goodyear know about this circuit that you could do a one-stop Grand Prix because nobody else could even get a sniff of that?
We never had a wear problem throughout the weekend, and it was just a sort of blistering problem coming from the heat build-up. And we'd pretty much got a handle on it this morning, and there was no reason why we couldn't do a one-stop strategy and why we should have such good performance from our first set of tyres and then immediately get into trouble on the second set. Who knows? But this is motor racing, and what I think trying to take some positive out of it is, irrespective of our strategy, the car engine performance was exceptional, and we didn't win here, but we should be able to win some later in the year.
Okay, Ron, many thanks. And that new Mercedes-Benz engine, both cars ran at clearly outstanding performance from the German company. Brian?
All right, thank you, John. John is going to move down to the Alain Prost pits. There is the Rothmans Williams car. That is Jacques Villeneuve's car. It crashed just before Villeneuve completed his second lap this afternoon. To bring you up to date, if you're just joining us at just after 2:30 Eastern Time, this race has been stopped. Michael Schumacher declared the winner. Jean Alesi will finish second, and Giancarlo Fisichella will be the other driver on the podium, the young Italian driving for Eddie Jordan. It's a very quiet and a very subdued crowd here today. Villeneuve going out before completing his second lap. The mark of a great driver is honesty, and Jacques Villeneuve was certainly honest in the interview. Jonathan Palmer with John Watson when he said, look, I simply made a mistake, and that's Frenson's car, Heinz-Harald Frenson, his teammate, who will finish fourth here today. So no Williams drivers on the podium, but a bitterly disappointing day for the record crowd and for Villeneuve because of a mistake. He hit the wall just coming into the start-finish area to complete his second lap. But of far greater importance, the accident involving Olivier Panis, the 30-year-old driver for Alain Prost, and we will show you exactly what happened driving in his 56th Formula One race. Dr. Jonathan Palmer, take us through it.
So there, that Ligier Prost car suddenly snaps sideways at 250 kilometers per hour, 155, ricochets off the right-hand wall. Look at it thump into the tires, coming to a halt in probably another 5 meters. A lot of G-force there, but also a lot of impact. The tires are being flung around, and those tires are big, they're heavy, and let's just pray that they didn't impact upon Olivier's head. We saw him conscious as he got out of the car. It certainly looked very much that way. There is the car being brought back, and the right rear, well, that may well have got damaged on the wall on the right-hand side. But, you know, if this is a function of the tyre situation we've got, and we know there's his teammate Nakano, and we've seen these blisters, as Ron Dennis said, they seem to be much more prevalent in the later stages of the race, the second and third sets of tyres. Is it because the track's got a little bit warmer? That's something we could wonder. But, you know, fundamentally, it's a function of the tyre war that we've got now with Bridgestone coming in. We've never had tyre problems like this in Montreal, not for a long, long time. And it's come about because we've got the tyre war, we've got Bridgestone coming in. It's through no fault of Bridgestone. Let me make that absolutely clear. They've got every right to be in here in Formula One, proving that it's them who can make the better tyres, and Goodyear are going to try and do the same from their quarter. But this just shows you that tyres cannot be taken for granted. They are crucial elements. They're crucial to performance. They're crucial to safety.
Safety very much the story here this afternoon. 30-year-old Olivier Panis on his way to hospital, competing in his 56th Formula One race. He won at Monaco in 1996. On the left of your screen, Jean Alesi, second today for Benetton. On the right in the yellow suit is Giancarlo Fisichella, third, and the winner is Michael Schumacher. Subdued Michael Schumacher and a very subdued crowd here in Montreal. This race, scheduled for 69 laps, stopped and Schumacher declared the winner. Well, there's no question. The major story here this afternoon, the accident involving Olivier Panis. John Watson, bring us up to date.
Yeah, I'm with Cesare Fiorio, the sporting director of Prost Grand Prix. Cesare, what do you know about Olivier's condition?
Well, unfortunately, we have no information so far. He is in the medical center, and Alain Prost just went there. I am with the radio with him, but he hasn't got any information so far.
Now, the accident happened very quickly. There was no obvious signs for why. Anything that you've been able to find from Olivier?
No, I called him in the radio immediately, but there was no answer, and we couldn't see anything on the TV or on the telemetry. So we must examine the car and speak with him.
Okay, Cesare, many thanks.
Thank you, John Watson. There is Giancarlo Fisichella on the right. He's third. And finishing second, man that won this race in 1995 for Ferrari, Jean Alesi. You see him on the right of your screen. And the winner, of course, today, Michael Schumacher and Ferrari. Here's the trophy. And Schumacher, Quebec Premier Lucien Bouchard, David Letterman in the T-shirt with the khaki pants on the right of your screen, assisting in the presentations here this afternoon. But subdued presentations. Schumacher takes the driver's lead as Villeneuve didn't finish 2 laps. The crowd, Jonathan, almost in a stunned frame of mind, and it started early when Villeneuve went out, and of course it continued and escalated the silence with the accident involving Panis. And we should point out there are giant video screens all around this circuit, so pretty well all the spectators could see what happened.
Well, it's been an amazingly eventful Grand Prix here at Montreal, more so than I can remember for a very long time. We've had that storming pole position from Michael Schumacher, that storming start from Schumacher, and then we had at the very first corner Eddie Irvine out, Mika Hakkinen out in the McLaren, and then we had, of course, Panis involved in that shunt too. By the end of the second lap, Villeneuve had this extraordinary error, but of course he was so frank about. We had Rubens Barrichello, the star, qualifying in third place, going backwards faster than you could see. We then had Ralf Schumacher in another spectacular accident when a tyre exploded. We had David Coulthard then coming into the lead when we realised he was on a one-stop strategy and virtually everybody else was on 2 stops. And then the whole thing coming to such a terrible end with that dreadful accident from Olivier Panis. And of course we all pray that his injuries are as minor as possibly can be. But Michael Schumacher at the end of it all, that's the Eddie Irvine Ferrari coming back. Michael Schumacher at the end of it all has won yet again. He got it all right. He looked like he was going to get challenged by Coulthard, but as Ron Dennis was obviously bitterly disappointed, and entirely understandably so. He didn't need to stop, of course. The irony was, as Dennis was saying, that with the blisters that Coulthard had, he could have gone through to the end of the race, but sensibly he took the safe option. But the clutch problem, I wonder actually if in the first stop we thought he was about to stall, I wonder if the clutch problem was actually manifesting itself a bit there then.
We'd like to alert the viewers, we will stay on the air here in Montreal. What happens in Formula One, Jonathan, unlike IndyCar racing, we had Greg Moore with us earlier, we're allowed to interview the drivers in their cars immediately after the race. That is not the case in Formula One. What they do is they take the top 3 finishers, those drivers on the podium, and they take them up for a pool. It's called a pool worldwide interview, and we will broadcast that for you. It should start in about 90 seconds from now. We will also hopefully replay a Jacques Villeneuve interview, but right now, here is the pool interview.
Very pleased with your second victory of the season.
Obviously pleased for the 10 points, but it's no point to celebrate. It's the victory. It's a circumstance which I don't like to win races at. It's about it.
Going back to the race, your third pit stop, what happened there?
I went out after the second pit stop. I took it fairly easy on the tyres, but obviously I wanted to not lose too much ground to Coulthard and catch him at the end. And immediately picked up a blister on the tyre, so I had to come in again, take on new tyres, and then we all know what happened.
Did you think you would have been able to catch up with David towards the end of the race? Was that likely?
I mean, we both had the same problem. It would have been the case or matter who took mostly care of his tyres towards the end, may then attack. It depends very much, because this last set of tyre, I don't know whether this would have lasted to the end. The same probably for David.
Thank you, Michael. Jean, a second good result for you. You were third in Spain and second today, so again, you must be pleased, even though it's difficult circumstances.
Of course, but I completely follow what Michael said. We all a lot sad of what happened on Panis, and we hope he will be well and back in the car very soon. Of course, for the team, it's always good to bring 6 points, and it's what it happened today, so that is okay.
Looking forward to the next Grand Prix, do you think as a victory at home is possible for you?
We did a very good testing last week, and we are going there directly after the race. So probably our car will be very competitive, but to say I'm in a position to win, you cannot say that, of course, but we will be very competitive for sure.
Thank you, Jean. Giancarlo, your first appearance on the podium, a great result for you.
Yeah, big results, and this was my target for this season, so it's incredible for me. I'm very happy, but I'm not very happy for Panis accident.
Going back to the race, did you have any problems with tyres yourself?
With my second set of tires, yes, some problem with the front right tires, some blister, but everything okay.
Well done, Giancarlo. Michael, now some comment on the race in your own language.
Stay with us. Stay with us. Live coverage of the 1997 Grand Prix, Players Grand Prix of Canada, will continue from Montreal right after this.